sbagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo, ancora Pirlo di tacco, tiro, gol! Grosso, gol di Grosso, manca un minuto, gol di Grosso.
Hello and welcome to the Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host, Samik Paul, and I'm delighted to say we've got Jason Brown back on the Q&A special. Jace, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, mate.
Good man. Right, Jace, so we've had a few questions on Twitter, but now that you're back on, I want to start with a Milan-Arsenal talk after our Europa League tie. Bitterly disappointing from my perspective, of course. Putting the Danny Welbeck dive aside for a minute. For me, the most disappointing aspect of the tie over the two legs was our performance in the first half at the San Siro. I think that basically lost it for us, just in terms of our approach in the game. And I kind of felt like we were just scared. We were too shocked. We weren't ready for such a big game in Europe. And with the players that you've got, despite your form leading up to that game, the likes of Ozil, Wilshere, Mkhitaryan, all used to playing in big games like that on the European stage, I think you guys fully deserved that win away from home. So disappointing for me to go out, but you know, over the two legs, can't argue too much. I think Milan were much better in the second half for me, second leg for me. Obviously, the controversial moment changed everything. But from your perspective, having seen Milan over the two legs back in Europe and on a big game, what did you take away from the two games? Were you impressed with anything? Did you see things that you were disappointed in, or what were your general feelings on Milan?
Yeah, I think generally, I was shocked at the approach, like you say, the first half of the first leg. I think that Milan gave Arsenal way too much space and didn't really press the ball high up the pitch. But I know that's not really a common trait in Italian football. But I think the lack of tactical know-how from Gattuso, I think if he'd been watching the Premier League or taken Arsenal seriously, because I generally think, you know, Milan didn't take Arsenal seriously, they would have known that just by getting in our faces a bit high up the pitch, it would have probably been an easy win. But giving us time and space, like you say, you mentioned, you know, Jack Wilshere, Mkhitaryan, Ozil, those type of players have the ball in, you know, middle of the park. They can like pick out passes and make things happen, and that's really, like you say, is really what decided the tie. So that's the only thing that shocked me. But I was impressed with the quality in the team. Second leg, especially, I think, you know, we were a bit lacklustre Arsenal, and then when you got the goal, I agree, like thoroughly unlucky, the Danny Welbeck dive, and it did kind of change things. But I was really nervous when you went 1-0, to be fair. But yeah, that's the one thing that shocked me, or the failure to really kind of get on the front foot. Yeah,
definitely. I think I've given Gattuso quite a lot of praise over the last month or two just for his tactics and his approach in games. I think he's got it spot on, and in terms of his half-time team talks, we always seem to come out of games when we need a result in the second half as if he's really put a rocket under us. So I think he generally gets things right tactically. But yeah, I don't know whether it was just a case of freezing on the big stage, just not being prepared for it, or I don't know, it was just a combination of everything in that first leg. I thought we were really disappointed. Like you said, it was obvious what we had to do for me, and it was quite funny because I sent a tweet out after one of your games before the meeting, just in saying that we need to bully you, we need to get in your faces, not give you any time on the ball. If we start Kessie and Catrone, I think we can genuinely bully you for 90 minutes. As soon as you beat us 2-0, everyone started retweeting it and liking it. All these Arsenal fans came out of the closet. But that's what I felt we needed to do, and we didn't do that. So yeah, it was fantastic. We were both there at the Emirates, and it was fantastic to see Milan give it a proper go, get that an away goal, and make it interesting for 5 minutes. But I think, yeah, the first leg was just massively disappointing. But it's a learning curve as well, isn't it, right? So moving forward, the players that we've got, all very young, all not used to that situation on the big stage, that's going to put them in good stead moving forward.
Definitely. You think, you know, next year, European football, like you say, they should know now. You know, when you're playing in the European stage, you've got different styles of football, different types of players that you're not used to facing every week, but you can never really underestimate anyone.
Absolutely. We did have a Milan-Arsenal game to get stuck into, so let's hope we can see each other again in the Champions League before long. That'd be the ideal scenario, but we'll have to see how we fare. On to Twitter questions then, Jace. Starting off with @JMart2075. Please discuss the right backs, Conte versus Calabria. Who offers more defensively, offensively, and versatility wise? Jace, if I have to pick one name out of those two to start on a regular basis, it's going to have to be Andrea Conte. I know he's been injured all season, so we haven't seen him as much as we'd like to, of course. But in Calabria's defence, I think he has really matured and done really well this season. We've seen him kind of, again, you can take the Arsenal game into consideration. He was all over the place with Mkhitaryan, giving him all sorts of trouble. But over the course of a few weeks in Serie A, I thought he really started to kick on, scored that great goal against Lazio as well. I was really impressed with him. I thought this was definitely a breakthrough for him and he was starting to kind of really find his feet. But for you, is Conte the first man in that position despite Calabria coming through, or would you stick with the youngster and maybe even ease Conte back in to start with the intention of him becoming the first choice moving forward?
I think, yeah, definitely Conte's got to be first choice. But yeah, I do agree, it's probably best to ease him in because you don't want him, having a long-term layout again. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, he is the better of the two. I agree, Calabria has kind of stepped up and done quite well being so young and so inexperienced. I think he's only 21, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's come in and he's done all right. But Conte is the man. He's the guy we brought in specifically to fill this position. When we had the big overhaul of players, and he was one that we were both very excited about, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we it's a shame we haven't seen more of him. But like you say, he is there to be the number one guy. We just want to get him in, get him stable, so we can have a nice long run in the team. Absolutely,
yeah. I think one of the things that we're looking forward to as well is obviously him and Kessie joining up again. They showed great link-up play at Atalanta last season, so I'm sure they'll be relishing being back on the pitch together. But just in terms of defensively, offensively, I think Calabria does put in a really good shift defensively, and he's got a great cross on him. That's probably one of his strengths, that especially with what we've had to put up with Abate for years, of him literally never finding a Milan player in the box. Yeah. It was quite refreshing for Calabria to come in and actually swing in some decent crosses. So from an attacking point of view, I think he's quite good. But you're looking at Conte from an attacking point of view, I think it was 7 or 8 goals he got for Atalanta last season, a number of assists. So I think I'd probably give him the edge going forward, and he puts in a decent shift defensively. What do you think about Calabria at left back though? So that's obviously not his natural position. He is very versatile in the sense that he can do a job there. But yeah, we've seen him in the previous games that he's featured there. He's not really as comfortable, and that's obviously going to happen because he's a right-footed player. So would you be inclined to stick with Ricardo Rodriguez, a natural at the left-back position? Or if Calabria continues to impress while Conte's working his way back into the team, to give him that confidence that he's very much part of the team, would you move him over to the left?
I wouldn't, to be honest. I think, we mentioned the Arsenal games. I was quite impressed with Rodriguez over the 2 legs. I thought he showed, great promise going forward. He wasn't too bad, defensively as well. And he's another player, like when we brought him, we were both pretty excited about him. And I think he does offer a lot going forward, probably a little bit more than Calabria. And like you say, him not being a natural left back, it's probably not the best. But I wouldn't mind, seeing him come in maybe to come on the pitch, not start in ahead of Rodriguez, but just to get more experience. Like you say, just give him a bit of game time, maybe coming on 20 minutes ago if the result's going well in the left-back position, just because, like you say, he does get forward well and he's a good crosser of the ball, but it probably is difficult, when it's not his natural foot.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I think definitely early on in the season, I thought we saw some really good signs from Rodriguez. I think we both praised him for his crossing ability and just his general runs forward overlapping. I think there seems to be a tendency to ignore him when he's on the overlap in recent weeks. Hakan's been guilty of it. Bonaventura has been guilty of it. And then he kind of looks a little bit reserved in possession. He keeps going backwards rather than forwards. But overall, I'm always inclined to go with a natural in their position rather than trying to fit someone in just because of their versatility. I think we've seen that with Barini, done really well, but then last week got caught out, and that was just a massive sort of sign to say, look, yes, he can do a shift, but he's just not natural in that position. So if you've got a quality left back, then you should play him at left back. So I think Calabria may be the one to suffer, unfortunately, but we'll have to wait and see what Gattuso goes with. At Hark the Sound, thoughts on possible new ownership. So just to give a recap of the situation, Yonghong Li, again, question marks and problems arising. The latest suggestions that he was asked to put forward 10 million euros. That hasn't been put forward in front before the deadline. And now the hedge fund, Elliott, have been linked with potentially, taking control of the situation and looking for new investors to take over the club. For me, it's all very disappointing, and I think both of us said earlier in the season how it was always important just to listen to the club when Mirabelli or Fasone came out and said something. Just trust them, trust the process. But for me, though they've been very quiet this time around, so I'm more inclined to listen to the rumours and the speculation and think there might be something to it. The only thing that kind of calms me down and, doesn't let my concern be the overriding factor, I think from a hedge fund point of view for Elliott, they obviously want to get their investment returned, and the profit from it as well with interest. So although their heart's not in the club, I think it's in their best interest for Milan to remain financially stable and with an owner that can actually take us forward. So are you concerned about these latest round of speculation, Jace? There's all sorts of talk about money laundering and all these other investigations into Lee, which have been pretty much ongoing since the start of the year, since he took over. I know Usmanov has been one of the names linked with it, the guy that runs Monaco as well. Are you inclined to be concerned about all this stuff coming up again? Or, as I mentioned, with the hedge fund being so involved, not ideal, of course, but they're obviously looking for the best situation for them financially. Are you still relatively confident that it will play out okay?
Yeah, I am. Mainly for the reasons that you just kind of outlined there. It's not your normal situation when an owner can't afford to run his club anymore. Like you say, the hedge fund is involved, and you made the great point there. They're not just going to want to flog Milan off to anyone for any amount. They're out to make money. That's what they're there for. So they're going to want to hold on to it and see that the club continues to make a profit, so that when an owner is identified or someone does come forward, they can get the most out of it, and Absolutely. That the club can be financially stable and just continue to build on. Those names mentioned, Usmanov, there, he's had a frustrating time at Arsenal. I think he's definitely someone who's got deep enough pockets to take Milan forward. It would really upset me though if he did buy Milan. I'd prefer if Kroenke brought Milan in and sold his shares to Usmanov. Sold his Arsenal shares to Usmanov. But he would definitely be someone who could take the club forward. I think he did come out and deny all speculation, but that doesn't really mean anything in modern day times. Yeah. So I think I'm quite confident going forward that it's probably best that the club does leave the hands of Lee and it go into someone who's serious and who has the finances to take the club forward.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think indications are coming thick and fast. We've signed two players, allegedly signed two players this summer with Reina and Strinic coming on free transfers. So whether that's a trend that's going to continue or, if we qualify for the Champions League, then maybe the budget comes into play and we actually sign big name players. But it's all looking a bit shady at the minute, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Yeah. At the Milanisti 11, thinking ahead to the summer, who would you like to see us sign and take us to the next level? In my opinion, we generally need pace or flair. My suggestions are Son Heung-min and Jack Wilshere. What do you think of those suggestions, and who do you ideally yet realistically sign instead? So let's break this down, Jace. Who, across the market in Europe, would you say is a realistic option for Milan and one that can actually take us forward, as Milanisti 11 mentions there? I'm very much inclined to sign Wilshere. I think he splits opinion with many fans, but for me, I think his game is so well suited to Serie A. I think he kind of combines that technical quality, that grittiness, the mobility, all those little factors all rolled into one. I think he'd be fantastic in a different league away from the Premier League. So Wilshere on a free, that's just a no-brainer for me. We've got to be all over that. If we can prize him away, obviously, I'm sure you'll be hoping he stays, and that might be his priority. But apart from Wilshere, is there any other names or players that you think, you look at them and think, actually, Milan should definitely go after them?
There's quite a few players, but in terms of like realistic targets, it's always difficult. I think a lot of it will hinge on whether we get Champions League football or not. But I think someone dynamic in the middle. Song is a good shout. I do think he's underrated, even though he plays for the Scum. I think he's a great player, and it would actually be great if someone took him off Tottenham's hands. I'd love that. I think Lucas Moura would have been a good shout as well when he was available. But obviously he's gone to the Scum too. But there's a young player who's been linked with Arsenal, and Malcolm from from Marseille, I believe.
Bordeaux, I think so.
Bordeaux, yeah. Bordeaux. He looks like he's a very skillful player, the type of player that can really unlock defences, which is kind of what Milan are missing. Also, Furker from Lyon.
Yep.
Okay, I think I'm pronouncing that. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
No, we'll go with it. Fine.
Yeah, he's another player who's quite dynamic and pacey.
Yep.
I think those are the type of players that Milan needs to focus on. Kind of up top that can play anywhere across the front three, but can really assist in getting goals and creating chances for the club. I think there's quite a few around Europe, mainly the French league. They're probably more realistic targets as opposed to getting any from the Spanish league or the Premier League. But those two, I think Malcolm and Furker will be top signings for that.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think, like I said, we definitely need pace and wide players that can actually have a different effect, a different dynamic in the attacking third. So those would definitely fit the bill. Just reading through some of the recent speculation, Belotti's another name that's been continued to be linked. Apparently his value is halved in a season. He's gone from 100 million to 50 because of his injuries and poor form this season. So if that's a possibility, then let's definitely revisit that.
Raiding Arsenal might be, if there are the changes happening, there might be a lot of players going. Not just Jack. There might be quite a few players on the way out. So,
well, let's talk about Wilshere then. Now you've brought him up. Obviously, you're hoping he signs a new contract and stays, I'm assuming. But do you agree with my opinion? I know, like I said, it does split opinion. There are many that disagree and don't want him at all. But proving his fitness, proving his worth, he's a quality player. I think he'd be an absolute dream fit for us, especially, like you said, as you mentioned, with the need to have that different dynamic in midfield as well, to add a bit of quality and depth there. He's a perfect signing for us, isn't he?
I think he is. Like you say, I don't want him to go. I think he's underrated. I don't know why so many people hate him. I think, if he played for Spurs, everyone would be loving him. But yeah, he's quality. He's got something that no English midfielder has at the minute. And I know I can hear people saying, "Oh, what about Dele Alli?" Dele Alli's a great player, but he's different to Jack Wilshere. Jack is a type of player who'll pick the ball up, and he's got no problem just carrying it, 20, 30 yards up the pitch and then picking out a pass. I know he's had his injury issues, but I genuinely believe if he was Spanish, everyone would be raving about him. But
yeah,
it's because he's English and he's a little bit different. He's had, like I say, his injury issues. People don't want to give him the respect I think he deserves. I mean, he just got his England called up the other day, and the amount of abuse I saw online, I was like, you got players like, no disrespect, but you got players like Jake Livermore,
yeah,
who serves a purpose. But you look at that England midfield, who there can do what Jack does?
It's true. Yeah,
there's no one. He's a unique player, so I think I'd always pick Jack Wilshere for any team. I think a player like that is vital to any setup and can be useful in any team. So I think he'll do great in Italy, especially at Milan with the players around him. And like you say, if We do buy some pacey wingers. I think that would just work really well, having Jack in the middle to pick out passes, split defences, and having these pacey wingers cutting in. I think it'll work wonders.
Absolutely, I have to agree with that. Yeah, just looking at it from a more generic point of view, I mean, names are difficult to come up with outside of Wilshere, but if Donnarumma leaves, then obviously that's a hole in between the posts. I know speculation is Reyna's coming in, so whether he's being signed as a direct replacement, whether he's being signed as a backup to Donnarumma, or if we do look to buy another goalkeeper to replace Donnarumma, I think Mattia Perrin might be a great shout for that role. Elsewhere in the squad, Wilshere obviously for the midfield, I think we're still lacking a lot of depth in midfield. We've relied heavily on Bonaventura, Biglia and Kessie this season. Yeah. I don't really want to see more Montalivo next year, so whether Locatelli gets a shout or not, we do need more depth there. We're definitely lacking.
I think, sorry to interrupt, I think Dembele, Moussa Dembele from Spurs would be a great signing.
Absolutely, yep, that's a great signing.
Again, as well, you would do me a favour taking a Spurs player taking a Spurs player out of contention. But yeah, he's top quality. And you look at that Spurs team; they've got so many dominating big midfielders. I don't know why they need them all.
Yeah.
Even if you don't get Dembele, I know Sissoko hasn't really hit the ground running, but he's still, I believe, got quality. He's someone who I think would be more effective in the Italian league probably than he has been in the Premier League. But my top pick would be Dembele in the middle, or even if you could prize an Emre Can from Liverpool.
Yeah,
I know he's coming to the end of his contract. I think it's this season, isn't it? I think
it is. Yeah.
It runs out, so he might be available on a free, and he's another quality player who can pick out a pass and put in a tackle. So someone like that would be great to add depth to the Milan midfield.
100%. I think Juve have been heavily linked with Emre Can, so I'm not sure if we can muscle our way to the front of that queue, but we'll see. Pochettino rates Dembele as highly as Maradona and a few others, apparently, last time I heard him talk about it, so whether or not he's letting him go, I'm not sure. But so definitely the midfield needs to be addressed, and as we've both mentioned there, the wings, I think we definitely need to add more attacking, quick, pacey wingers to the team, so we'll have to wait and see who's linked, but all will be revealed this summer. At Samir Mohammed 72, can we realistically get top 4? How important are fast players for us? Will you take Pato over Kalinic? What do we need to beat Juve on Saturday? And lastly, thoughts on us getting a new owner and if we want a new owner. So, Jace, let's break this down one bit by bit. Realistically, can we get top 4, Jace, in your opinion, yes or no?
Yes, definitely. I believe we're only 5 points off top 4. Yep, got a game in hand on Lazio, who are ahead of us. So I think, the next coming weeks are going to be vital. 2 games, Juve, I believe, next, and then the big one, the derby, against Inter, who are currently sitting in 4th. So, two good results, and the table is looking very different. So, it's not out of the picture at all, but like I say, a lot's going to ride on this next fortnight. So fingers crossed, hopefully we can get 2 good results and Inter slip up. But, there's still, 6-7 games left? I think
10 in total.
10? Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a lot. That's even better. So, so 5 points, 10 games, it's never over, in my opinion.
Definitely. I think first and foremost, it's just a miracle that we're back in this position where it's even a possibility. I think, go back to the start of November and this was a dream, like in the pipeline, really. It was just, it didn't look on at all, but we've done incredibly well under Gattuso to get back into contention. But I have to agree with you. I think the next week is going to be absolutely huge. If we can come away with, I'm not going to sit here and say if we can come away with a win from Turin, because the likelihood is that it's going to be very, very difficult. If we can get a positive result and we can take that into the Inter game and beat them, then I will sit here and say, do you know what, top 4, it's on. The last 8 games, let's go for it, all guns blazing, and I think we can do it. But yeah, it all hinges on the next 2 games. I think it can either, like I said, it can either look really great in the table, we can either close that gap and be right in the mix, or we could fall off and be on the outside looking in again. So certainly going to be an interesting week ahead. kind of covered the sort of quick players, pacey players. I think we both agree that yes, we do need to add more pace to this team. I think it's great having all this technical quality with the likes of Calhanoglu, Suso, Bonaventura, but when you're trying to break on teams on the counter-attack, they're just slowing everything down. We desperately do need someone that's a bit quicker, that can carry the ball a bit quicker for us. So that's a necessity this summer.
Yeah.
An interesting one, Jace, was rumours this week that Pato might be coming back. He was spotted in Milan. I think he met with Galliani and Berlusconi, obviously the old regime, but rumours that he might return. He's obviously been in China now for quite a while. Would you back him to come back to Milan? Obviously, he's very, very popular with supporters still, despite all those injuries that he had when he was with us last time. Still only 28. He is a very, very good striker, but combine that with Kalinic's struggles this season, he has been absolutely awful. I think it's 4 goals in 30 appearances. Would you take a Pato over Kalinic, or are you going with experience and a track record, a more recent track record?
I'll go with Pato. I think because he's a club legend. Like you say, only 28, young. I think being back in a Milan shirt will probably do him well. Would I get rid of Kalinic though? I'm not sure, because I know he's had a poor record, but he does offer something different, and I do believe next season it will probably come into his own a little bit. But it kind of depends on what happens with the rest of the team. I think if we go down the route of getting some pacey wingers and trying to put together a kind of attacking front three, I think then we could probably let Kalinic go and just rely upon Cutrone, Silva, Pato, and maybe like a Malcolm and Furker, and Suso obviously being part of that attacking collective. I think that would work really well. But I think if we're still going to go down the one up top, maybe two up top route, I think having a Kalinic to pull off the bench if you need to just lump some balls in the box or get a big body in there to unsettle defences, I think that's important. And like you say, Pato has been in China for a while. The standard over there is not anything like it is in Italy. So would he be able to hit the ground running if he comes back? I'm not sure, but I think just for the nostalgia purposes, it'll be great to see him back in the Milan shirt.
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree with that. I think you're going to be a very unpopular man in the comments with your defence of Kalinic. I don't think that's going to go down well. I do still understand your perspective of him, but I think with a lot of us have got to the stage now where we're just beyond, sort of any confidence in him being able to do any sort of job for us. Yes, he has a bit of movement and he can link things up. He's got a few assists this season, but some of the misses that he's had in the last couple of weeks, and then obviously he was dropped from the squad last weekend by Gattuso for his lack of, or his poor attitude in training, should I say. It doesn't really look particularly promising for him, so I'd be shocked if he doesn't move on this summer. But yeah, like I said, the nostalgia, just everything about it, Pato coming back would be incredible. Whether or not he'd have the impact that we need from a third choice striker, if he does come in and say he's behind Cutrone and Silva in the pecking order, I don't know. I think that's a different story. I think there's more effective options out there, but certainly would welcome him back. I loved him in the first spell that he had with us, so
yeah,
great to see him back in the Milan shirt, and he's never been shy in professing his love for the club since he's left, so that'd be great to see. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Samir also asked us, Jace, what do we need to do to beat Juve on Saturday? I think we're going to need a massive stroke of luck. I think luck's going to play a big part in a game like this. Away to Juve is not going to be easy. I think certain situations the ball's going to have to fall for us, and hopefully we can take advantage of it. But it's just the basics, I think, and it's easier said than done, I know, but keep it tight at the back. Very important first 20 minutes. Do not concede. And then you've just got to be clinical when you get your chances. You're not going to get many chances, so when they do come along, we have to take them. So it sounds simple. Obviously, it's not. But is that the crux of it for you, to plot in Juve's downfall, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, I think that is what needs to be done, but it is very difficult. They've got so much quality in the team, and their manager is in my opinion, tactical genius.
Yeah.
So even if things aren't going well for him, he always seems to be able to pull something out of the hat. By changing a few players, pulling someone out of a position, and suddenly the whole game's changed. So it will be difficult, but definitely we've got the quality in the team. I think if we, like you say, if we can keep it tight for the first half hour, 40 minutes maybe, and then, like you say, if we get a chance, a set piece, it'd be very difficult to break on a team like Juve. But I think if we can keep the ball, even if it's not, in advanced positions, if we can just keep the ball and be patient and wait for, don't be wasteful in possession. I think that's the key. Because the more, Juve have the ball, the more confident they get, and the players that they have and the pace that they have, I think they can do serious damage. But it's about keeping it tight, keeping it solid. I think it can be done. I think we can definitely come away with a draw.
Yeah.
A win would be a dream, and I think, like you say, it involve a lot of luck. But I think we can go there if we're disciplined and have a Gattuso put down a good game plan. I'm sure, like you say, you'll have them riled up for the game. I reckon we can come away with a point.
Yeah, I'm confident in the sense that I think a draw is a possibility. Obviously, a win would be amazing, but can't kid ourselves. Got to be realistic. It's going to be very difficult. Would you try and take the game to Juve, or, like I said, would you be disciplined and patient on the ball and also off the ball, kind of like just keep your shape and keep organised and make it difficult for them to break down? Or would you press them high, play with intensity and really go for it? So it's obviously a fine balance and you've got to get it right. Would you? Yeah. Which one would you prefer to see Milan go with?
I think, pressing high would work for me. We saw Spurs do it and they got a bit of joy in Turin. Didn't work for them back at Wembley though. But they did press them high and they put them in under a lot of pressure. And, they did well to come away with a 2-2 draw, especially after going 2-0 down so early on. Yeah. So I think, pressing them high would work. But again, we talked about the pace, and we mentioned Son, who was great in Turin, I felt. But, Milan don't have a player like that in the team. So it'll be difficult. But we do have quality in the final third. So I think, if we do get in their faces, players like Hakan, players like Suso, they do have the quality to unlock defences. And, if Cotrone's on his game, he can definitely stick the ball away. So I think, getting high up, not giving them any space is probably the best tactic.
No, sounds good. Let's see what Gattuso goes with. But be nice to get an Andre Silva last gasp winner for the third week in a row. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
See if that happens. But Evo A on YouTube left the comment on the last video. If needed, who would you sacrifice in the coming summer? For me, the only untouchables should be Romagnoli, Cotrone and Calabria. For the right amount of money, I would not be too upset to see even Donnarumma go. Evo made an argument that Suso, with his €38 million release clause, would be the one that could be sacrificed. And in his defence, I think he makes a very valid point. We all love Suso, and for the most part, in a majority of our games, he is the man that's most likely to make something happen. He's always the one trying to create something on that right flank. More often than not, he is decisive, whether that's an assist or a goal or just a very important part of our build-up play. He's always involved. So there's many arguments to suggest that no, Suso should be untouchable as well. He should be nowhere near the exit door. But interestingly, Evo also said, especially based on the 2 games we played against Arsenal, just the difference in pace when we play in Serie A and in Europe, Suso seems to be one that struggles quite badly with that. And I think he has gone missing in big games in Italy as well to an extent. Do you share that reservation about Suso? Do you think he's a player capable of not only stepping up another level from his perspective as an individual, but also growing into a role where he can be the most decisive player for us when it really matters in the big games in Europe as well? Or would you absolutely stick him on the untouchables list and make sure he stays at Milan if we do have to sell someone this summer?
I wouldn't stick him on the untouchables list. I do understand, like you say, he's always popping up with an important goal or an assist, and he is a great player. He's got a lot of quality. But I do agree with the argument put forward that he hasn't always stepped up to the mark in the big games, and the way that football is heading now, I think having a pacey winger is probably going to do more for the team than a player like Suso, who is like I say, he's got great quality, but he's not the quickest, and he's not as dynamic as certain players. And I think a great example is a player like Coutinho at Liverpool. A lot of people thought he was untouchable.
Yeah.
And then, you replace him with a player like Salah, who's just, lightning pace. And the combination of that has worked a lot better than it did with Coutinho and Firmino and Mane. But having just that kind of spearhead attack of three really quick, dynamic players, and we've already got Cutrone, and if we added another one in, and even Hakan, I guess, although he's not lightning pace, he is quite dynamic. I think having a kind of spearhead attack would do us much better. So in that instance, I think Suso is expendable.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think a lot of people will argue that no, he's absolutely crucial to us. We cannot afford to lose him, but I think there certainly is a genuine argument that, if the right bid came in and we have to sell someone this summer, if the financial situation does worsen, then I wouldn't necessarily rule out Suso being sold. I think there's also, you mentioned him with Çalhanoğlu there. I think that's almost a direct comparison instance that I would, if you said to me you'd have to sell either Suso or Çalhanoğlu, I would go with Suso. I'd say sell him because even though Çalhanoğlu's come a long way now this season, from struggling earlier in the campaign to now he's doing absolutely brilliantly for us. But I just think there's more to his game. Like you said, there's different dynamics. He's got the vision to pick out great passes. He works tirelessly off the ball. He's very effective defensively when Suso's not. And there's just all round more to his game. He's not. I'd love to see more assists from him. I'd love to see more goals from him. But there's just something about his all-round ability on the football pitch that I would say, I'd probably prefer to lose Suso than him. So that alone kind of says it all for me that, he's definitely not untouchable. But do you agree with Ivo's list there? Romagnoli, Cutrone, Calabria is untouchable. I'd probably add Kessie as well. I think he's only going to go from strength to strength in the seasons ahead. So I definitely would not want to see him move. But any other names that particularly stand out that we can't afford to sacrifice?
No, I agree. I'll just stick Kessie on there. Like you say, he's the tank, isn't he? You need a player like that in the middle. But I agree with that list. I think it's a good spine. I would want to stick Donnarumma on there, but like you say, if you're gonna get stupid money for him, then you can't really turn that down, especially with the situation with the ownership. But I agree with those names. I think that's a good base to work with, and then you add some pace in the wing back areas and in the attacking areas, and you've got a great team.
Absolutely. Let's see what we can do to add to that. But I'm more than happy with that backbone of the team. So all good. Right, Jace, that's a wrap for this pod, I think. Unless you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, I think we've covered quite a bit. Some good questions come in. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next coming weeks, see what happens in the summer. But it's very exciting times.
Absolutely, man. Good stuff. Thanks to all those who sent in questions and for all those who listened as usual. I'll be back at the weekend to discuss their game against Juventus. But in the meantime, follow me on @Milan Talk 1 on Twitter and Facebook. Jace, great having you back on again, my man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
No problem. Always welcome. But nothing left but say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the people.